Hello and welcome to today's mini teach on CV writing and interview skills. I'm going to tell you a couple of quick, simple solutions to help write your CV. Then we're going to look at a website that can help you write your CV, though it is a subscription based, but it gives you an idea on how it's going to look. And then we're going to end with a couple of tips on interviews. So let's start off with the simple contact information: name, phone number, email address. This is going to be needed in all forms of resumes or CVs because we want the recruiter to be able to contact you. Ensure your name is at the top and is obvious, closely followed by a personal phone number and a personal email address. If you've had work previously or you've been working in a school, say, we don't want those email addresses. We want to make sure that they can contact you. When we talk about email addresses, list a professional sounding email address. Because it's going to go near the top of your resume, CV, it's going to be one of the first things the recruiter is going to see. So you want it to be professional. You don't want something stupid like, fluffybunny123@hotmail.com or busylizzie@aol.com. It's not good. Forbes once found that 31% of CVs were thrown out due to unprofessional email addresses. Cute or funny usernames don't belong on a professional resume. I can state that from the admin role, we have seen many applicants who became learners with us who had unprofessional email addresses, and that nearly put us off because you're then working in a school. Having something like Dumblonde or skullsandcandy.com, anything like that, it's not professional, it doesn't look good. That's your junk email or your personal email for that. You can easily set up a free Gmail account and create a new web address there where it's just your name, first name dot second name @gmail.com. Easy enough. It's free. It shows more professional stance. Next, think about where your education section goes on your CV. For most job seekers, the education section should be kept simple. Degree, graduation year, school name, location, and place that way. This would also then mean things such as secondary school, having your GCSE results, especially English and maths. Recent grades moved to the education section near the top of the resume, underneath with the contact information, listing relevant coursework. Don't add things like pictures or headshots to a CV. They were trendy at one point, but it doesn't need to include your photo, and this may come back to bite you. Some recruiters do automatically reject people who add a photograph to their CV. Because this can cause them a discrimination issue if they see a picture and choose not to do it. So they sometimes just immediately reject them. When listing things like employment dates, include both your start and end dates and your work experience, but add months because we want to know how long you've been employed for and not raise any suspicions. An employment period could be 2018 to 2019, but it could be December 2018 to January 2019, in which case it looks like you've been working for the company for a year, but really it's only been 2 months. Using the right fonts. Best resume fonts include serif fonts like Canberra, Garamanda, Calibri, Helvetica and Vervadan. These are also dyslexic-friendly fonts, which is always useful and inclusive. If you've downloaded a font or you've used a font that's not necessarily on every single computer, so for example Macs and PCs have different fonts, it can come up as gibberish if it's a digital applicant that you've transferred, and you'll end up with shapes or squares or something, and it will then show all your hard work for nothing because you'll just have a gibberish looking CV, which they might not chase you up on for a paper copy. Remember your transferable skills. All hiring organisations want to hire employees with excellent soft skills and transferable skills. These are things like leadership, communication, creativity, talking to people, working individually, working as a team, being able to be organised, keeping areas and activities clean, keeping areas clean, being able to run educational activities if you're looking to go into school vibes, working in organisations. These are all skills that we kind of forget we've got, but actually are really useful. If you're changing careers completely, you should also lean on these transferable skills because they can clearly demonstrate your soft skills and show that it's important when transferring to a new career that you can lean on your soft skills as well. These can be things like problem solving, critical thinking, discussions, debating, that kind of thing. Think about your accomplishments. This is something that is really good for a recruiter or hiring manager because they have no idea what you're good at. By showing your accomplishments, you can then set this apart from other people's CVs. So, for example, a duty could be manning the office desk at the school as part of your BA qualification and answering parents' emails and phone calls. But the accomplishment could be, on average, I've talked to a third of the school's parent list and answer 230 emails a week, improving response times by X amount. Use an active voice within your CV. You don't want a passive voice, as it will make you seem insecure or unwilling to take responsibility of your success. It can sometimes be difficult to own up to, your accomplishments, and we don't always feel like we, can shout about ourselves, but we need that voice to be heard. We also want to not have a needlessly wordy kind of voice in terms of our CV because it's going to take up precious space on our CV, which is getting harder for recruiters to hire because they can't read it. So maybe you have trouble writing CVs and cover letters. That's fine. It's a document that we only seem to use when we desperately need it, and we forget that we should be updating it constantly. If you gain experience, do a new course, get a new job, we should constantly be updating our CV so that when the time comes, it's all up to date and there's no panic, rather than suddenly finding you need to find a new job and your CV is not up to date and you can't quite remember what you've done. I will say this, looking at your CV and constantly updating it does make you realise just how much stuff you have done and how proud you should be of your accomplishment. So let's look at Live Career. Live Career is a website that helps you create CVs and cover letters. Yes, it is advised that you create an account with them so then you can save your progress as you go, but you don't have to. So here we've got an example of one of the ones that I've started to do already, and you can also then do a matching cover letter. So they're trying to help you, and it's like a professional writing service that you can add to it as well. So say we're going to do a new CV. We click new, simple as that. It's loading different designs. It gives you an option. Have you written one before? In this case, I'm a yes. How do I feel about writing it? I could feel great, okay, or not happy. We'll just go with okay, kind of down the middle. What is the area that I am looking to write the CV for? So they've given you an idea already. So for example, a law or business CV might look different to an architecture and design, where you might want to be a little bit more quirky. I'm going to add creative industry, because that way it's adding to their kind of database. They might then bring out some new templates later on in a few years' time, who knows. You might be going into a teaching industry, for example. So then it gives you a couple of options of templates. These are the most common templates that are popular, which help show kind of your design, your layout, which is great. So here we've got a summary, your experience, your skills, education. This way it's the same thing: experience, skills, contact, summary, experience, skills, education. So we've got it kind of laid out straight away, and the same information is where everything is needed. You can look at more templates, so maybe that's not the one you want. Maybe you want something slightly different. Generally advise against one that's got your face in it. Some companies absolutely hate that and they immediately get rid of it, because if they have something like your face to do on, there's then an edge of prejudice that they might be falling into, which they don't mean to be. So generally, if they see that there's an application that has some form of picture just sort of cropping up, say like that, they might just get rid of it. But there is loads of different ways around it, so we've got some nice kind of demonstration there. It's good to separate out your page a bit so we can see it, rather than just full-on text. but there are multiple options. Generally I do mine on Photoshop and I change mine out, but equally it's good to refresh and change. Here they've got you can change the colours, so maybe you identify with green being your particular colour. For me, my current colour is pink because my hair is pink, so that would be one way that they could associate it with me, is they go, oh, it's a bright pink CV, why is that? And then I come up for an interview and I've got bright pink hair. That will then make them recall their CV, the CV with my application. If you've already got a CV, you can upload it into the document, but that can be a bit confusing at times, especially when you might have done a layout differently to this template. So you could just do create a new CV. So very nice, it's trying to tell you about your header. It does want you to upload an image on this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to upload my logo. I have a logo associated with my animation side, so this might be an animation job I'm going for. So my logo would then again help with my identity there, rather than having my own picture. But for you guys that might not be the case, in which case forget we've got that there. So job titles, this is where you can have multiple job titles, things going on. So previous job titles, I have been a tutor at the University of Creative Arts, July this year. So continue. So as we can see here on this page, it's already started to put that in there. So describe a little bit about what I did. So I would set workshops, but it's going, oh, previously you've done something that's similar. So it's now going, this is some of the spiel that you've mentioned before, this is quite good. So say like I'm doing that and that's it. I can then add more experience if I want. I can then add assessor for profile. And as you can see, it's gone there. So it's decided that my more relevant role, so my latest role that I'm in, goes to the top. And again, I can add in some of these that I've got. So once again, this is previously uploaded information that I have done to this site. I would normally have to type it all in to go from there. So now with education, for all of them, they are going to want, no matter what job you are going for, your GCSE results. And we're not talking necessarily all of them, we're talking the classic English and maths. If you don't have them and you've got functional skills, you should all have functional skills with profile if you haven't had your maths and English, because we make sure you get that, because every job is going to want to know what you've got for that. Qualification, so here it's got a drop down of all the different qualifications you can get. So we've got some NVQs, we've got some masters, bachelors, that's like your degrees and things. So then here I'm going to need to say that it was grade. So again, it's kind of pulling through some possible ideas of what you might want to use for that. And then if we look at education, it's showing there, Clarendon House School, Ramsgate, GCSEs, maths. So I could do maths, English at grades B kind of thing, and that would be fine. I could say, if I'd got similar results, I could say 8 GCSEs at grade 2, 3, 4, whatever you are currently on, and then single out maths, English. Let's show your skills at its best. So now we're talking skill set. So this is where we really want you to think about your skills. So you'll have things like transferable skills and soft skills, which you will have equally have included when you applied for this application for your apprenticeship. It's things like teamwork, it's things like being organised, being very on it when it comes to online learning and attending your sessions early, staying later and being committed to the job, applying your knowledge from your coursework into your work area, that kind of thing. We're going to add a summary, so that's a summary of who you are. So my summary is usually something along the lines of, I'm a hardworking individual who works great as a team but can also prioritise and work in an individual's environment. I look at things from a creative side, self-motivated. So here we've got a couple of things that they're suggesting again. I wouldn't necessarily click this and go, right, that's what I'm after. I'd have to develop this and change this so that it would be more me. But as you can see, the summary has come up there. And then just considering a few extra little sections. Could be accomplishments, professional affiliations, additional information, certifications. So for example, for my job role at Profile, I had to do a lot of on-the-job training, so I would add those in. because they wouldn't necessarily come in education. Accomplishments, as an animator, I've won several awards, so I put that in to highlight that there. And as we can see, it's starting to pop up there. And we can see it come up through here, so fantastic. But I could equally start to change through these to see how it would change. They've still kept my information, they've just moved it across. But I could then see how it looks, and I can change my templates. Wanting one without an image, so we could have this, so my name's at the top, my location, summary, experience, so that's my work experience, my skills, education, that kind of thing, and it will try to fit it in as best as possible. So then I'd go save and next. And that is a quick whistle stop of how to create a CV that makes it a little bit more eye-catching rather than just writing it down on Word. To carry on with this, you then have to kind of pay for it, which, to be fair, $1.95 for a PDF document of your CV isn't bad, considering you've used their fancy layouts and you might not have access to documents, programs that can jazz up your CV. So you may want to consider doing that. So you've got your resume or CV, and it looks great. But the purpose of an interview is to figure out who the person is behind this piece of paper and figure out if they can do the job. So here are a few tips for a first-time interview. You'll have already done one already to get onto the apprenticeship, but you might now need to do an interview to take your qualification into an educational or a business admin setting and go from there. Preparing for the interview. So in previous micro teachers, we've talked about visualising success, pre-imagining an area if you're going to be nervous. Think about kind of the office space that's going to be, this interview is going to be held. If it's going to be for a position in the school you're in, think about one of the rooms that is in the school, how you know the area. This will start to reduce anxiety. Think about certain questions they're going to ask. They might be asking about your apprenticeship itself. What was the thing that you found hardest? What was the thing you found most interesting? Where you'd like to take the qualification now? There will be some questions that will be obvious and others that will come out random, but if you can prepare a list of some of the more obvious questions, you'll feel more confident when you answer them. Make sure your resume or CV is up to date, it's got relevant information, and then it's got your most highest qualification on there that you've just done. That will probably be your apprenticeship, but also remember to have your qualification for either functional skills or maths and English GCSE result, because this is something that all jobs are going to want to see. If there are any questions that the job have wanted or the vacancy have asked you to answer before you get there, make sure you've answered it, or they may ask you to answer it within the interview itself. Make sure you answer these questions and do your research on the company. It could be that they want to know why this school is relevant to you, or what part of the school's values do you identify with. If you haven't looked this up beforehand, you're going to look pretty silly in the interview, not understanding. Try to be at ease. I know it's stressful, it's an interview, everyone gets stressed, everyone gets a little bit nervous. But it can also be quite an interesting, fun, or kind of enthusiastic environment. You may have a fun interviewer, they may give you an icebreaker or ask you about mutual interests. They may ask you about your apprenticeship. They might offer you a drink. Even if you're not thirsty, it's worth taking one, because you could have some water or a coffee or tea, and if you suddenly feel like midway through a sentence you're going because you're drying up, take a sip of water, recollect yourself, focus back again, and you're good to go. Whereas if you didn't accept that drink, you might be a bit parched and spluttering or coughing. You may be asked questions that put you in a real situation. For example, if they want to know how you're going to deal under pressure, instead of asking how do you feel like with pressure, they might ask it's 9 a.m. and you have an important meeting to attend. At the same time, you have to send your plan to your boss, and for some reason your email isn't working, and at the same time a co-worker has called in sick, letting you know that you have to get on with their work as well as your own. What are you doing first? That's a lot to take in, but they're going to get a more realistic response from you, giving you an example, than just saying, how do you deal under pressure? They'll want to know how you're going to turn this question into active responses. And they'll also get a good idea of your character and how you operate under pressure this way. During this interview, you're going to need to listen and you're also going to need to speak. Essentially, in this interview, you're going to sell yourself. You're going to sell what makes you so fabulous that they want you on their team. Your interviewer is going to be quiet and they're going to listen to you, sometimes more than they're going to speak to you, because it's your turn to step up to the stage and speak. They want to now know about you and your character. If you clam up and don't speak, then maybe they don't think you're going to work well with the team. If you speak too much, or you're too chatty, or you say irrelevant things, they may think you're a little bit distracted. But a good amount of talking and discussion and a light smile will really help sell you as a whole and hopefully land you the job. Making eye contact. We don't mean this in a scary way that's super intimidating or just staring off into, their eyes unblinking. But we want to show that you mean business. We want to show that you're interested and that you're focused on the task at hand. Posture. Posture is going to be a dead giveaway. The way that you sit or stand is going to tell the person all about you. If you're slouching, it'll show that you're looking bored. If you're upright and alert, they'll believe that you're engaged. Now, we're not necessarily saying things like putting your elbows on the table, but sitting up straight and showing that you are intrigued when they're talking to you, or that you are interested, or sometimes even using your hands shows a great engagement. Smiling. Now, I've mentioned a little smile earlier. Try to give genuine smiles. It can be quite difficult during an interview. We get that, there's nerves, but sometimes even a nervous smile helps. It shows that you're pleased to be here, you're interested to hear what they've got to say, and that you are generally a happy, engaging person. But don't lead with a fake smile. If you really don't feel like smiling, that's fine. Hopefully this has helped a little bit with some interview tips after you've done your apprenticeship. Thank you for your time.